That morning, as I lay inside a pale wooden coffin, a rosary clasped between my fingers, the faint scent of wax and lilies surrounding me, I realized something profound. Sometimes, you have to die, at least pretend to learn who truly loves you. My name is Eleanor Hayes. I'm 65 years old, and this is the most heartbreaking yet freeing experience of my entire life. It began just 3 months ago when my daughter, Laura, started behaving differently. She visited less often. Her hugs felt brief and hollow. Her voice over the phone had lost its warmth. And every time I looked into her eyes, I noticed something unsettling, an impatience, as if my very presence was time moving too slowly for her liking. I live alone in our old family house in Savannah, Georgia, the same house with pale clay walls where I raised Laura after her father passed away when she was only 8. For nearly 4 decades, I worked as an elementary school teacher, devoting every ounce of my energy to giving her a comfortable life, good schools, trips, a wedding, everything. Laura married Daniel 4 years ago, a polite, well-dressed accountant with a practiced smile and a calculating stare. From the day he entered her life, something in mine began to shift. At first, it was harmless curiosity, small questions about the house, subtle remarks about how much space I had for a woman living alone. Then came the nudges. "Mom, have you ever thought about downsizing? It would be easier to maintain a smaller place." Eventually, conversation stopped whenever I walked into the room. One warm September afternoon, as I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee, I overheard Laura speaking in the backyard. Her tone was low but sharp. "Mom's still healthy, Daniel. She could live another 20 years. We can't wait that long." My heart froze. I recognized Daniel's voice reply calmly. "Relax. We'll figure something out." Then silence. A moment later, Laura stepped into the kitchen with that same rehearsed smile. "Everything all right, Mom? You look a little pale." I said nothing. But that night, staring at the pearl rosary my mother had given me before she died, I made a decision. I would discover the truth, no matter how painful it turned out to be. And for that, I would have to die, at least for a while. Sometimes, the only way to measure love is to disappear. There's an old photograph on my nightstand, one I look at every night before sleep. Laura is 7 in it, her hair tied into pigtails just like I used to do before school. She's hugging me in the yard, both of us laughing that pure, unguarded laugh that only exists between a mother and her child. Those years were hard, but beautiful. When Michael, my husband, died in a car accident outside of Atlanta, I was left with a mortgage, a daughter, and a teacher's paycheck that barely covered the bills. But I made sure Laura never went without anything, not once. I can still smell those mornings in our kitchen, the aroma of fresh coffee blending with her giggles as she told me her wild dreams before school. I'd pack her lunch while she colored at the table and she'd say, "Mommy, when I grow up, I'll take care of you the same way you take care of me." Every Sunday, we'd go to the farmers market downtown. We'd buy flowers, cinnamon rolls, and that Monterey Jack cheese she loved. She'd carry the small bag, I'd carry the big one. When she turned 15, I threw her the birthday party she always dreamed of. It took me 6 months to pay it off, but it was worth every penny when I saw her glowing in that pink dress. We danced, and she whispered, "Thank you for being the best mom in the world." So when did it all change? When did my little girl's hugs become obligatory, and her visits feel like chores? Daniel came into her life 5 years ago, polite and ambitious. At first, I welcomed him. But over time, he began to pull her away from me. Family dinners were too much trouble, Christmas was spent with his parents, and calls became shorter, colder. Then came the questions. Mom, do you have life insurance? Have you written a will? How much is this house worth, anyway? I thought it was just concern. I was wrong. That night, after overhearing their conversation, I wept harder than I had since my husband's funeral. I held my mother's rosary, the same one passed down through 4 generations of women, and I remembered her words. Eleanor, this rosary carries the strength of our family. When you hold it, remember who you are. And I remembered. I remembered that I had survived widowhood. I had raised my child alone. I had worked honestly for everything I owned. So I vowed I would not let anyone, not even my own daughter, treat me as if I were an obstacle. The next morning, I called Dr. Richard Harris, my old friend and physician for more than 20 years. I told him my plan. At first, he thought I'd lost my mind. Eleanor, are you serious? He asked, peering over his glasses. Completely, I said. I need to know who my daughter really is when she believes I'm gone. After a long silence, he sighed. Give me 2 weeks to prepare. But this is dangerous, emotionally and medically. Nothing will go wrong, I replied. I just want the truth. During those 2 weeks, I observed Laura differently. One Wednesday, she came by wearing the expensive perfume Daniel had given her for her birthday. She sat in the living room sipping coffee, her eyes darting across the room like she was mentally cataloging the furniture. Mom, she said sweetly, don't you think this house is too big for you alone? I like it just the way it is, I replied. It's just, at your age, Mom. So many stairs, so much to maintain. I'm 65, Laura, not 90. She laughed softly. Of course, I didn't mean, I'm just worried about you. But when she left, I noticed a framed photograph missing from the mantel, a photo of the house from the garden. She'd slipped it into her purse, thinking I wouldn't notice. A few days later, Daniel came with her for the first time in months. Mrs. Hayes, he greeted politely. It's good to see you. They sat together on the sofa, their voices rehearsed. Eleanor, Daniel began, Laura and I have been thinking. You live alone in this big house, while we're in a cramped apartment. Wouldn't it be nice if we moved in with you? We could help take care of you. Take care of me? I repeated. I don't need taking care of. Of course, he chuckled, but think about it. You wouldn't have to worry about bills or chores. And if anything ever happened, we'd already be here. Laura nodded eagerly. It's the best option, Mom. I looked at both of them, and I knew. Dr. Harris's plan was necessary. When they left, I clutched the rosary and prayed, not for myself, but for my daughter, the child I no longer recognized. A week later, Dr. Harris called me. Everything's ready, Eleanor. Are you still sure you want to do this? More than ever, I said. Then be at my office this Friday at 9 a.m. I'll administer a sedative that will put you into a deep sleep for 6 hours. Your pulse and breathing will drop so low you'll appear dead. I'll handle the temporary death certificate and arrange everything with the funeral home. You'll have your answer by nightfall. I hesitated. And you'll be there? I'll monitor everything from the adjoining room. When you wake, I'll help you get out. Thank you, Richard, I whispered. But if I lose my nerve, then I'll stop everything, he said softly. But Eleanor, be sure about this. What you hear may break you. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. I already am. That Thursday night, I cleaned the house one last time. I watered my plants, brewed my favorite cinnamon coffee, and walked through each room, letting every memory breathe. In my bedroom, I laid out the navy blue dress Laura had given me 2 Christmases ago. If this is the last image anyone has of me, I thought, I want it to be a good one. I spent that night awake, holding my mother's pearl rosary. And when dawn came, I stood in front of the mirror, fixed my hair, and smiled faintly. My heart pounded, but my mind was clear. At 8:45 a.m., I drove to Dr. Harris's office. When I entered, he looked at me with concern. Are you ready? I nodded. The last thing I remember was his gentle voice. Rest, Eleanor. I'll take care of you. The injection felt warm as it entered my arm. A calm spread through me, first my chest, then my head, until everything went black. When I began to awaken, I smelled candle wax. The air was heavy with lilies. Voices echoed faintly, distant at first, like sounds underwater. She looks so peaceful, I heard someone say. Oh, poor Eleanor, came another voice, Mrs. Whitmore, my neighbor. She was still so young. Such a shock. Then Laura's voice, trembling, rehearsed. A heart attack. It was sudden. She didn't suffer. I wanted to scream, I'm here. I'm alive. But my body wouldn't move. The sedative still held me in its invisible cage. I felt someone touch my hand, the cool brush of fingers over the rosary I still clutched. It's Grandma's rosary, Laura whispered. Guess it's mine now. Something inside me cracked. But I stayed still. Dr. Harris had warned me I would remain conscious but paralyzed for nearly 6 hours. I'd hear everything, but be unable to move, breathe deeply, or even blink. It's like a temporary death, he'd said. But it's dangerous. You'll be entirely vulnerable. Now, lying in that satin-lined coffin, my hands frozen around my rosary, I understood exactly what he meant. The voices around me blended, the neighbors, old students, former colleagues. She was a wonderful teacher. Always so kind. She helped my son when he couldn't read. Every word of kindness felt like a balm. Until I heard his voice. Laura, come on. We need to talk. It was Daniel. Their footsteps grew fainter, then stopped nearby. They spoke in hushed tones. Did you meet with the notary? Daniel asked. Yes. Early tomorrow. Everything's in my name, the house, the accounts, all of it. And how much? More than I expected. Mom saved a lot. Daniel chuckled. Well, she worked hard. Now it's time we enjoy it. Don't say that, Laura whispered. Why not? We've waited long enough. Years crammed in that tiny apartment while she lived alone in that mansion. My chest tightened. Laura hesitated before answering. I know. I just feel strange about it. That's normal, Daniel soothed. You're her daughter. But think about our future, travel, a new house, freedom. There was silence, then her voice. You're right. And in that moment, I knew my child was gone. The little girl who once promised to care for me had been replaced by someone else. The hours crept by in that coffin. I couldn't see light, only heard voices fading in and out. My fingers tingled as the sedative began to wear off. I recognized new voices, my colleagues, my church friends, Father Matthew's offering blessings. Eleanor was a woman of faith, he said gently. She devoted her life to others. Every loving word made Laura's betrayal cut deeper. Then I heard Grace, my oldest friend and Laura's godmother. Her voice trembled. Laura, I still can't believe she's gone. You two were inseparable once. I know, Laura said. But things changed. She became so controlling. Always interfering. Controlling. That word stabbed me. Grace hesitated. Eleanor? Controlling? She adored you. You didn't live with her, Laura replied quickly. She always had something to say about our lives. It was exhausting. I wanted to scream lies. All of it, but my lips wouldn't move. Well, Grace said softly, now she's finally at peace. Yes, Laura murmured. Finally at peace. Those words shattered what little remained of my heart. Hours passed. People left. The room grew quiet. Then came another familiar voice, Daniel's sister, Caroline. Is everyone gone? She asked. Almost, Laura replied. Good. Did you meet with the lawyer? Yes, this morning. Everything's done. The will names me as beneficiary. The house, the savings, everything. And the value? About 8 million total. Caroline whistled softly. No wonder Daniel wanted this wrapped up fast. It's not like that, Laura said weakly. Sure it's not, Caroline teased. You've got money, a house, a new life ahead. You should be celebrating. Their laughter echoed faintly against the marble walls. I lay still, tears burning behind my closed eyes. My fingers moved, just slightly. The sedative was fading fast. Soon, I would wake. Soon, I'd have to face them. But before I did, I wanted to be absolutely certain. And that certainty came half an hour later. Only Laura and Daniel remained near my coffin. Do you think she suspected anything? Daniel asked. Who? Your mother. Before she died. I don't know, Laura said after a pause. But if she did, it doesn't matter now. It doesn't matter now. Those 4 words repeated in my head, over and over. My hands twitched. My lungs expanded. My pulse thudded in my ears. Dr. Harris had told me. When you begin to wake, stay calm. Don't move until the right moment. But what was the right moment to rise from your own coffin? Outside, footsteps approached. A man's voice said, "The hearse will be here in 20 minutes. The body's ready," Daniel replied. The body. That's what I was to them now. Not Eleanor. Not Mom. Just the body. Then, Aunt Rose, my late husband's sister, spoke softly near me. Oh, Eleanor, she was such a strong woman. After Michael passed, she never complained. She was proud. She was good. Laura's flat voice followed. Yes, Aunt. She was. And you, my dear? Aunt Rose asked. I know you two drifted apart. I'll be fine, Aunt. Mom understood. She did? Rose's voice trembled. She asked for you every Sunday. I saw the sadness in her eyes. Laura said nothing. And then, for the first time, I heard her cry. Soft, broken, guilt-ridden sobs. Daniel's voice followed, cold and firm. Don't mind her, Laura. Your mother had a good life. You were a good daughter. But I could hear the doubt in Laura's tears. The first crack in her composure. The sound of footsteps filled the quiet room again. Voices murmured, organizing, preparing. Then I felt movement, the subtle shift of weight beneath me. They were lifting my coffin. 4 men, maybe. Their steps echoed across the marble floor. Cool air brushed my face as we left the funeral home. The scent of rain lingered in the breeze. It was late afternoon. The sun must have been setting over Savannah, painting the clouds with gold. They slid the coffin into the hearse, the hinges groaning softly. Then, silence, except for the hum of the engine. As the hearse rolled forward, I felt every bump in the road. The motion was rhythmic, hypnotic, and heavy with finality. I was being taken to St. Andrew's Church, the same place where I had married Michael 42 years earlier. Inside that dark box, I had time to think, too much time. I thought of Laura at 6, scraping her knees on her bicycle, and how I had kissed away her tears. I thought of her at 12, when other kids teased her, and how I stood up to her principal for her. I thought of her at 18, trembling after failing her college entrance exam, and how I stayed up night after night to help her study. I remembered the pride in her eyes when she graduated, when she hugged me and whispered, "None of this would have been possible without you, Mom." That memory was the cruelest of all, because now that same daughter was the reason I was lying in this coffin. The hearse came to a stop. Doors opened. Cool air flooded in again, mixed with the solemn toll of church bells. They lifted me once more. The footsteps echoed against stone walls as we entered the sanctuary. I recognized every sound, the polished wooden pews, the faint smell of incense, the heavy rustle of mourning clothes. I was placed before the altar. Father Matthews began the service, his voice solemn yet gentle. Brothers and sisters, we gather today to say farewell to our beloved sister, Eleanor Hayes. A woman of faith, a woman of compassion, a woman who gave her life in service to others. He spoke of my years teaching children, of my dedication to the community, of the hope I inspired. Eleanor was a mother who loved deeply, he said. A soul of prayer. Each Sunday she sat right there, third pew on the right, clutching her mother's rosary, a symbol of strength passed through generations. My fingers twitched again. I could move them now, ever so slightly. The rosary pressed warm against my skin. She endured loss, Father Matthews continued. She faced hardship, yet she never stopped loving. His words pierced my heart because they sounded like a eulogy for a life that was still breathing. The choir sang softly. The candles flickered. Then came the part Dr. Harris had warned me about, the final farewell. Now, Father Matthews said, family and friends may come forward to say their last goodbyes. The shuffling began. One by one, I heard them approach. Mrs. Whitmore wept openly. Thank you for every cup of coffee, Eleanor. For every kind word. Mr. Ramirez, my colleague from school, whispered. You were the best teacher we had. The children adored you. Then came Grace, my dearest friend. Her hand trembled as it touched mine. Rest in peace, my friend, she said through tears. You were the best mother, no matter what anyone says. If only she knew. Then, silence. And I knew who was next. Laura. Her steps were hesitant. She stood there for a long time, not speaking. Then, in a trembling whisper, she said, Mom. Her voice cracked. She began to cry, the kind of cry that comes from guilt, not grief. Forgive me, she murmured so low that only I could hear. Forgive me for not being the daughter you deserved. For one fleeting moment, hope sparked inside me. Maybe she did love me. Maybe all of this had been Daniel's doing. But then his voice came from behind her. Laura, that's enough. Let's go. You need air. You're right, she sniffled. Her footsteps retreated. She walked away, from me, from the truth, from her chance to make it right. Father Matthews gave the final blessing. May the Lord welcome Eleanor into his kingdom. Amen, the congregation replied. Then the priest announced, the family has requested a private moment before we close the casket. Please allow them a few minutes alone. I heard benches creak, shoes scraping against the floor, murmured farewells. One by one, they left. The great wooden doors of the church closed with a deep echo. And suddenly, silence. Only 3 people remained, Laura, Daniel, and me. Is everyone gone? Laura asked. Yes, Daniel answered. Their footsteps approached. They were standing right beside me. Laura exhaled shakily. I can't believe it finally happened, she said, her voice no longer fragile, but relieved. I know, Daniel replied, almost smirking. I thought your mother would outlive us all. Me too. But look at us now. Yes, he said quietly, his tone chillingly calm. Finally free of this old woman. My blood ran cold. Laura didn't protest. She just whispered, now everything is ours. Those were the exact words Dr. Harris had warned me I might hear. And hearing them, from my daughter's lips, shattered every last illusion. My body trembled as life returned to my limbs. My chest ached as air filled my lungs. I could hear my pulse. I could feel the fabric of the satin lining beneath my fingertips. Dr. Harris's words echoed in my mind. When you have the truth, Eleanor, you'll know what to do. Just remember, what you choose in that moment will define everything. I opened my eyes. The ceiling of St. Andrew's came into view, the high wooden beams, the faint glow of candles, the golden crucifix. They hadn't noticed. I inhaled deeply. My breath came out steady. Then, slowly, I sat up. The satin rustled. The rosary clinked softly between my fingers. I turned my head toward them, and their faces froze in absolute horror. "Hello, my dears," I said calmly. "We need to talk." Laura's scream pierced the silence, a shrill, primal cry that echoed off the stone walls. Daniel stumbled backward, his face turning white as chalk. He tripped over a pew and crashed onto the floor. And I, Eleanor Hayes, 65 years old, sat upright in my own coffin, alive, awake, and ready to reclaim my life. Laura's screams bounced around the church like birds trapped in a cage. She backed away, shaking, eyes wide in disbelief. Daniel just stared, mouth agape, his hands trembling. I sat still, the rosary dangling from my fingers, and spoke in a voice steady and strong. "Laura, stop screaming. I'm not a ghost." Her chest heaved. "No, no, this isn't real. You're dead. You were dead." "No, my dear. I was sleeping," I said quietly. "And now I'm awake. Maybe it's time we tell the truth." Daniel's lips trembled as he tried to form words. "Mrs. Hayes, you were dead." "Dr. Harris," he signed, he said. "Sedatives," I interrupted calmly. "Dr. Harris has been my friend for 20 years. He helped me fake my death." "Fake?" Laura gasped, her voice caught between horror and disbelief. "Why would you do something like that?" I swung my legs over the side of the coffin and stood. My knees ached, but my resolve was unshakable. I took one slow step toward them. "Because, Laura," I said softly, "3 months ago I overheard you in the backyard. You told Daniel that I might live another 20 years, and that you couldn't wait that long." Her face drained of color. "Mom, I'm not finished." My voice rose, filling the vast stone hall. "After that day, I watched you. I saw the way you looked at this house, at my things. I saw you photographing the rooms. I heard you call me controlling to your friends. Mom, please. Quiet." I took another step closer. I had to know if what I feared was true. Now I know. Because I heard everything in that funeral home, every whisper, every plan, every word that fell from your mouths while I lay there pretending to be gone. Daniel tried to steady his voice. "It's not what you think." "Not what I think?" I snapped. "I heard you both plotting to sell my home, dividing my savings, even laughing about being free of the old woman. Those were your exact words, Daniel. And you," I pointed at Laura, "you agreed. You said, 'Now everything is ours.'" The air in the church felt heavy, almost sacred. Laura collapsed onto the nearest pew, sobbing. "Mom, please. I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me. We were desperate, Daniel lost hours at work, we were drowning in debt." I cut her off. "And so you decided to drown your conscience instead?" She wept harder. "Do you remember when you were 8 years old?" I said quietly. "After your father died, I worked double shifts, tutoring half the town's children just to pay the bills. I skipped meals to keep this roof over your head. I sold my wedding ring so you could have the quinceañera party you dreamed of. And never once did I complain. Never once did I ask you to repay me. Laura's head hung low. All I ever wanted, I continued, my voice trembling now, was a phone call. A visit. A little love. But you turned your back on me the moment that man convinced you I was a burden. Daniel finally found his voice. Mrs. Hayes, you're angry, and you have every right, but Laura is your daughter. Family forgives. I met his gaze, ice cold. Family doesn't plot each other's funerals while the person is still breathing. He flinched. Tell me, Laura, I said. Be honest, do you love me? Or were you just waiting for my heart to stop? She lifted her tear-streaked face. I love you, Mom. I swear I do. I was weak. I let him talk me into things. I thought if we just had the money, we could finally be happy. I wasn't thinking clearly. Please believe me. Believing you, I said quietly, is what got me here in the first place. She stood and stumbled forward, trying to take my hands. Please forgive me. I don't deserve it, but please. I looked down at her, the child I'd carried, the woman who'd wished me dead, and for a long moment, I said nothing. Then, slowly, I nodded. I forgive you, I whispered. Her eyes widened. You do? Yes, I said. Because forgiveness is a mother's final gift. But don't mistake forgiveness for forgetting. Daniel frowned. What does that mean? It means, I said, straightening my back, that the life you tried to steal from me will help someone else instead. This house, this money, every cent, I'm giving it away. Laura's mouth fell open. What? Mom, you can't. Oh, I can, I said. It will all go to a foundation for widowed teachers and single mothers. Women who know what sacrifice means. Daniel stepped forward, voice rising. That's your daughter's inheritance. It's her right. No, I said, my voice sharp as glass. An inheritance is a gift, not a right. And a gift must be earned through love, not greed. Laura shook her head, tears streaming. Then what about me? Am I getting nothing? I reached for the rosary hanging from my wrist and pressed it into her trembling hands. You'll get this, I said. Your grandmother's rosary. It's been passed through 4 generations of women who loved unconditionally. Every bead holds a story of strength, faith, and sacrifice. When you look at it, remember this night, and remember that your mother had to die to teach you what living means. She stared at the rosary as if it burned her palms. Mom, please, we can fix this. I can change. I hope you do, I said. But not for money. Not for guilt. Change because it's right. Then I turned to Daniel. And you, I said, my tone colder than ever, you poisoned her mind. You saw an opportunity and took it. He swallowed. I just wanted a better life for us. Then earn it, I said. Work for it. Because you've lost any claim to mine. And you've lost my respect. I would have loved you like a son, Daniel, if you'd allowed me. But you didn't want a mother, you wanted an inheritance. He looked down, silent. I walked past them both toward the side door of the church. My legs were shaky, but my spirit had never been stronger. Where are you going? Laura called through her tears. To live, I said, pausing at the doorway. To live the rest of my days with a clean conscience and my dignity intact. Mom, please don't leave us like this, she cried. I turned halfway, meeting her eyes. Like this? Alive? With a chance to change? That's more mercy than either of you gave me. And then I walked out into the cold Savannah night. The church bells were tolling again, slow and mournful. Dr. Harris stood waiting in the garden, just as we'd planned. He rushed toward me. Eleanor, are you all right? I'm fine, I said. Better than fine. And them? They're inside, learning what consequences feel like. He offered me his arm. Come on, I'll take you home. As we walked toward his car, I heard Laura's voice echo behind me, calling my name. Mom. Mom, please wait. But I didn't turn around. Sometimes, the greatest act of love is walking away. Because some lessons must be learned through loss. The night air outside the church felt like freedom, crisp, cool, and alive. For the first time in months, I could breathe without pain. Dr. Harris helped me into his car, his hands gentle, his eyes full of worry. You really did it, he said as we drove through the quiet streets of Savannah. You actually pulled it off. I had to, I replied softly, staring out the window. You were right, Richard. The truth hurts, but not as much as living a lie. He gave a small nod. They must have been terrified when you sat up. I almost smiled. Terrified is an understatement. We drove in silence for a while, the sound of tires on wet pavement filling the car. The city lights blurred into golden streaks as we passed the old courthouse, the library, the school where I'd spent half my life teaching. When we reached my house, I paused before getting out. The porch light glowed faintly, just as I'd left it. Everything was still, too still. Are you sure you'll be all right alone tonight? Dr. Harris asked. I turned to him. I've been alone before. I'll be fine. He hesitated, then handed me an envelope. This is the notarized document for your estate transfer, exactly as you requested. I held off submitting it until you confirmed what you wanted. I took the envelope. Thank you, Richard. I'll call you tomorrow. He nodded and drove away. When the car disappeared around the corner, I stood in front of the house, my house, and let the weight of everything sink in. The woman who had left this home a week ago, heartbroken, confused, doubting, wasn't the same woman who had returned. I walked inside. The floorboards creaked softly beneath my feet. The faint scent of lavender and old books welcomed me home. On the hallway wall hung dozens of photographs, Laura's birthdays, graduations, her wedding day. I stopped in front of one from her childhood. She was about 10, missing a front tooth, holding a handmade card that said, I love you, Mom. A tear slid down my cheek. I still love you too, I whispered. But love can't grow where greed lives. That night, I couldn't sleep. I made tea, sat in the kitchen, and listened to the rain tapping softly against the window. At dawn, I called my lawyer, Ms. Bennett, and told her to meet me at the office. When I arrived, she looked startled to see me. Mrs. Hayes, I thought you. I know, I said with a faint smile. Let's just say reports of my death were greatly exaggerated. She laughed nervously, then gestured for me to sit. You said you wanted to update your will? Yes. I handed her the envelope Dr. Harris had given me. Everything goes to the Savannah Women's Trust Fund, the one for single mothers and retired teachers. She blinked. Are you certain? That's everything. I'm certain, I said firmly. My daughter will have to earn her peace, not inherit it. Ms. Bennett nodded slowly. I'll make it official this afternoon. When I left her office, the sky was bright blue, clear after the storm. For the first time in years, I felt light. I spent the next few weeks quietly rebuilding my life. I volunteered at a literacy center downtown, teaching children to read. Their laughter filled the empty spaces in my heart. I planted roses in the backyard, red, white, and yellow, the same ones Michael used to love. Every morning, I walked by the river, greeting the fishermen and shopkeepers who'd known me for decades. Some stopped me, surprised. Eleanor? We heard you'd passed. I almost did, I'd reply with a smile. But I guess heaven wasn't ready for me yet. They'd laugh, and I'd laugh with them, because laughter, I realized, was another kind of resurrection. One afternoon, 3 weeks after the funeral that wasn't, there was a knock at my door. I opened it and froze. Laura stood there. Her eyes were swollen, her face pale. In her hands, she clutched the rosary I'd given her. Mom, she said softly. Can I come in? I hesitated, then stepped aside. Of course. She entered slowly, looking around as though seeing the house for the first time. It feels different, she murmured. No, I said. You do. She nodded, tears glistening. You were right. About everything. I've spent every night replaying what I said, what I did. I don't know if I can ever forgive myself. I poured her tea and handed her a cup. Forgiveness isn't earned in a day, Laura. It's proven in how you live afterward. She nodded. Daniel left, she said quietly. The moment he realized you were alive, he packed up and disappeared. I haven't heard from him since. I looked at her. Good. She gave a sad smile. I don't blame you for hating me. I don't hate you, I said softly. I pity the woman greed made you. But I still love the child I raised. And I hope, someday, you'll find her again. Her tears finally fell. She set down her cup, stood, and hugged me, gently, tentatively, as if afraid I might disappear again. For a long moment, I didn't move. Then I wrapped my arms around her. It wasn't the same as before, but it was something. A fragile beginning. When she pulled back, she placed the rosary on the table. This belongs with you, Mom. I'm not ready to hold it yet. I smiled faintly. Then maybe one day, when you are, it'll mean something more. She nodded, whispered goodbye, and left. As the door closed behind her, I looked at the rosary, its pearls glinting softly in the morning light. For the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. Because forgiveness, I realized, is not for the person who wronged you. It's for the heart that refuses to stay broken. I walked out to the garden, where the roses were blooming. The sun was warm, the sky endless. And as I sat there, surrounded by the scent of flowers and the sound of life, I whispered to myself, I died once to learn the truth. Now I'll live to remember it. The wind stirred the petals, and somewhere far away, the church bells of St. Andrew's began to ring again, not for mourning this time, but for rebirth.